This is Canon's new RF 70-200 F2.8, and it's actually been out for a few months now, and I was finally able to get my hands on one. And some of you already know that I have recently made my full switch from my 5D Mark IV to EOS R, and I've been mostly happy with pretty much everything except maybe one thing, and that has been the price of some of the RF mount lenses. One of the biggest strengths of the EF mount system, in my opinion, was not only their vast selection of their lenses but also their price. Canon's EF lenses, for whatever reason, are usually much cheaper than any Nikon or Sony equivalents, including the 70-200 or the 24-70 or any of the 1.8 primes. The old EF 70-200, which I have right here, this is the Mark III version. This is $17.99 brand new right now, and Nikon's is around $21.50, and their Z-mount version and Sony's are $2,600. But the new RF mount lens costs $2,700, which is $100 more than Nikon's and Sony's and $900 more than the EF mount version. So what does it exactly offer that the other lenses don't? Well, the most obvious is the size. Unlike the EF version and the other brands, it uses a retractable design, and only when it's fully extended, the size becomes more comparable to the EF lens. Also, if you're using the EF lens with the Canon's full-frame mirrorless cameras with an adapter, the size difference becomes even more apparent. Just by the lens itself without the hood, it's actually not much bigger than the 15-35 or the 24-70. The retractable design, of course, brings up some concerns about weather sealing because some water or dust can get into the gap here, but according to Canon, it's still pretty well sealed. And I obviously won't be testing weather sealing with either one of these lenses today, so you're just gonna have to take their word for it. But if you want more assurance, here's what Roger Cicala, the founder of LensRentals.com, had to say about the lens after doing a full teardown. I haven't tested it optically, I haven't even shot with it, but after looking inside it, I want it. The engineering in here is pure art, and even I, the person who mocks construction at any chance I get, can't find anything to complain about. It is a pretty interesting article if you care about that sort of thing, so if you want to read the full article, I'll put the link in the description. Not only is it about 30% smaller, it's a lot lighter too. The EF lens weighs 3.26 pounds or 1,480 grams, and the new RF lens weighs just 2.35 pounds or 1,070 grams, so again by almost 30%. This is actually a big deal if you travel a lot, and now you won't have to take your 70-200 off your camera every time you put it in your camera bag. There are many other changes apart from the size and weight as well. They have relocated the zoom ring to the front of the lens, and I usually hate it when lens manufacturers do that, but because the lens is so much shorter, it still feels quite natural. The only thing that's not an improvement in my opinion, the throw is quite a bit longer than the old lens. I would say about 2 times longer. With the old lens, you could easily go from 70 to 200 just by using your fingers, but with the new lens, it does require you to do it twice or move your arms a bit more. Not a big deal at all, but if you do this for several hours, it might get tiring. There's now a lock for the zoom ring, and if you grab the lens by the hood, the bottom slides out because most of the weight is at the bottom. But because most of the weight is at the bottom, the lens never slides down when you're holding the camera. The focus ring is also a lot narrower than before, which helps with the placement of the zoom ring. Because of the focus by wire design of the RF mount lenses, the focus distance window is gone now. The RF control ring is also moved to the back, so if you're used to using the control ring adapter, you'll feel right at home, and if you don't use the control ring, it's not going to get in your way. The lens hood has also been redesigned from the black petal-shaped design to this more circular and cylindrical design. There is also a small sliding window at the bottom that lets you adjust your filter with your finger. The new lens still uses the same 77mm filter thread as the old lens, so you won't have to buy a new filter if you upgrade. On the side, there are 4 switches similar to the old lens, except now there are 3 stabilizer modes. If you're not familiar, the mode 1 corrects movements in all directions, so it should be good for most general type of shooting, and mode 2 only corrects vibrations perpendicular to the movement of the camera. So if you're panning from side to side, for example, it will only correct the ups and downs. And now the new mode 3 only engages the stabilization when the shutter is released for easier tracking of any erratic movements. but like in mode 2, it will still detect any sort of straight panning motions. I don't know if the actual materials are different, but there's a slight difference in the outer coating of the lenses. The EF lens's surface feels a bit more rough and the paint is a bit more yellowish off-white, and the RF lens's surface is a lot smoother and the paint is a slight brighter and cooler white. To me, the smoother surface doesn't feel quite as durable and rugged, but that may just be the way it looks and it may be completely fine, and it does definitely look more modern and premium than the old EF lens if you care about that sort of thing. Okay, so it's smaller and lighter than the old lens, then that's pretty nice, but is that worth the extra $900? The old EF lenses, both Mark II and Mark III, were some of the best lenses that I've used so far, so if you don't care about the size and weight, is it still worth getting the new lens? Well, here's what I found so far. In terms of sharpness, as I suspected, there isn't a huge difference, at least in the center. But once you get out to the corners, the new lens seems to be a lot better. I mean, how important is corner sharpness on a lens like this? I'm not so sure, but I don't think anybody will complain about it. The lens performs amazingly with great sharpness throughout all the apertures, and its sweet spot seems to be around 5.6, and it starts to lose some sharpness at around f11 and up. Apart from corner sharpness, I didn't see much difference in overall image quality or color. Like the old lens, the compression you get at 200mm is amazing, and no matter what the background looks like, it just seems to melt away nicely. I did notice something very strange though. Canon has improved, or I guess decreased, the minimum focusing distance by almost half, from 1.2 meters on the EF lens down to about 70 centimeters on the new lens. So that means you can stand that much closer to your subject, which can lead to more compression and background blur, but when I step back to the same distance as the EF lens, it seems to suffer from some focus breathing. So at around 1.2 meters, the EF lens's frame is tighter, but with the RF lens, you have to step a bit closer to get the similar framing, and when you finally get to its minimum focusing distance, you can get tighter framing. I don't think this would hugely affect anybody's workflow, but just an interesting observation. Autofocus is lightning fast as expected, but the old lens was still pretty good and I didn't notice much meaningful difference there. One thing that's clearly better on the new lens is stabilization. Not only the stabilization better, but because of the lighter weight, I noticed I can hold the camera more steadily. When I was recording the shot after holding up the EF lens with my hands for a minute, my arms were already pretty sore, but when I tested the RF lens right after it, the lens's stabilization still did a great job. For shooting stills, it actually makes a much bigger difference. Even shooting at half or full second, I got over 50% keeper rate with the new lens, and with the EF lens, out of 50 photos that I took, only about 1 or 2 photos were not blurry. And again, a part of that is probably because of the difference in weight. So to sum it all up, the new lens is about 30% smaller and 30% lighter, and it can focus a lot closer, it's sharper, and it has a lot better stabilization. So again, is that worth the extra $900? Well, it obviously depends on your budget, but if you're gonna be shooting full-time with the RF mount cameras, I think it might be worth it. I mean, $2,700 is obviously still a lot of money, but if you are someone who's willing to spend $1,800 on a lens, then might as well spend a little bit more and get the lens that's gonna make your life a lot easier. And I'm not trying to defend their pricing at all, and what makes me mad is the fact that it costs $900 more than the old lens. But if you think about it, it's only $100 more than Nikon's and Sony's, and I think this lens is every bit as good as those lenses or better, and it is a lot smaller and lighter. And if you already own the EF mount lens, if you're mainly just concerned about image quality, it's probably not worth upgrading, but I would still rent one and try it out, because the weight and size difference alone can make a huge difference, not just for the convenient factor of it, but I noticed that it can actually change the shooting experience as well. So that's it for me today. I hope this is helpful, and if you have any other questions about the lenses, just leave a comment down below and I'll try to get to them all, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.